Hey everybody, welcome. Um, Today I'm very happy. Uh, we have a very great speaker with Trevor Longino. Um, he will speak about the 9 week guides to nurture and grow your startup. How are you, Trevor?
I'm doing well this morning, thanks. How are you?
Yes, yeah, very good also. I'm very happy. It will be a very interesting topic to, to speak about. Maybe I'm waiting a little bit, maybe 1 minute to have a lot of people. So we have 60 people yet, but I think if it's uh, for the startups, for the new startups, if you have any question, you have the question tabs on your right side. So don't hesitate to ask any question. If you want to speak about something, you have also the chat tab. So don't hesitate. And Trevor, if it's okay for you, the floor is yours.
All right. So I'll go ahead and get started. Alrighty, awesome. So, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. Here we're talking about startup growth and the 9 week system to nurture and grow your startup. I'm Trevor. I am founder and CEO of Crowdtamers, but I also have a long time history of being a CMO, particularly of technology and product led startups. I've been a marketer for forever, but I have also launched a whole lot of startups. Moreover, 14 of them have gone from zero to more than 2 million, sometimes 5, 10, $15 million in annual revenue. And the experience I've had launching all of those startups and the experience I've had launching startups consistently has given me a lot of insight into what gets business ideas up off the ground and what helps grow and make ideas get larger than they are at their very first inception. There are a few different ways to approach growing and scaling and making your startup kind of bigger than it currently is. But one of the easiest ways I know of to tackle this problem is to start by saying, if I'm looking to master or improve my go to market, I need to understand these three variables, right? Who's my audience? What is their problem? And what offer do I make to fix it? If you have these three pieces put together, you have enough to grow to 5, 10, $15 million a year in revenue. If you don't, you're going to have a hard time making much headway at all. Now, at the beginnings of go to market, at the beginnings of building out and nurturing and growing your startup, it's worth keeping in mind that you can't have too small a niche. You really can't have too small a niche. And everyone thinks about, oh, my startup needs to have a total addressable market of billions and billions and billions of dollars. And maybe someday you want your startup to have that total addressable market. But right now, you're way better off owning 70% of a $10 million market than you are owning 1% of a $10 billion market. Because when you own a lot of a niche, you have formed a moat. It's very hard for people to take it away from you. And if you make that niche of people very, very, very happy with your service, very, very happy with what you provided, that's when you really are untouchable because nobody else can take that audience away from you because you built that moat. Let me give you an example of one of the best use cases I've heard of somebody proving how you can't have too small a niche. So this is North America, right? If you were to go look really carefully at this image right now, it might be hard to see. Over here, right in the corner, there's a little red dot. I met a founder about 6 months ago now, 8 months ago now, and she runs her business limited to the geographical area that's just in that dot. Actually, it's even smaller than that. She's limited to just this red square here. And even smaller than that, she only operates in the bottom half of this area that's New York's Manhattan district. So already we're talking about 1/7 millionth of the global surface area of Earth, right? So already she's on a pretty tiny niche. She runs a real estate operating agency that invests in buys studio apartments and then refurnishes them into several very small, like 200 square foot rooms. And with these little rooms, she found an audience she wanted to serve. And the audience she wanted to serve were women who needed a safe place to take pictures and videos. So now we're not just downtown Manhattan, but already you've cut away all men, they don't apply. And then you've got people who need a safe place to take pictures and videos because these women all work on OnlyFans. They produce content for OnlyFans, which is a explicit video and photographic site where people can say, "Hey, I particularly admire this woman. I want to get photos of her." So only OnlyFans users in only downtown Manhattan, and only OnlyFans users who need a safe space to take photos and video. That's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. And she's doing $150,000 a month. That's almost $2 million a year with the tiniest niche you can imagine. And also, any of those women who are OnlyFans content producers and who want a safe place to produce their content, they won't go anywhere else. This woman used to herself produce content for OnlyFans. She knows the problem. She knows what these women are concerned about. And the women who work with her are very, very happy to have her as their landlord for this because they feel much safer. That's an example of you can't have too small a niche, right? The smallest possible niche I can conceive of does $2 million a year. Keep in mind, like, if you just imagine the North American geography and that tiny, tiny red dot you almost can't see over here, that's what you want to do when you build your niche. You want to find that tiny space to grow your business in to begin with. And when you find that tiny space, that little tiny bit of an audience, you want to understand what is their problem. Who is this really? Who's this audience really, and what offer can I make to make their life better? Now, one of the classic ways to say, "Oh, I'm getting ready to grow my business. Let me tackle all of the questions and considerations and problems around how to build and grow and scale," is the business model canvas. This is taught in business schools, and this is very, very popular. And I don't like it. I think it's too complicated to hold it in your head and to really be able to day to day keep thoughts about how do I steer my business based off of all of the parts in this 8-way boxes and keep them all in mind. It's too much. You can simplify. You can say, hey, most people are familiar with the idea of a funnel where leads come through your business, they have a buyer's journey, and they go from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel. And that's a pretty common model. This is still a little bit complex, I think. Building awareness, teaching people how to use the solution, and then explaining why your product is the best part of that solution. We can even simplify that more. Try to make this something you can all remember when you come out of this call today. Top of the funnel, they have clicked on a link that they saw that had you in it. Middle of funnel, they signed up on your website. Bottom of funnel, they tried you out and decided if they liked you or if they didn't. If they liked you or if they didn't is not really a marketing discussion here, right? So we end the funnel from the marketer's point of view there. Although I would note for sales, your funnel kind of starts with they've showed up on the website and ends with they've bought. So this is a marketing funnel here. And while I don't really like funnels as a key idea to think of your business, I like flywheels and circular models more. This one's really good to explain how people go through the journey and what you should be doing to nurture them throughout that journal. So we can think of the top just discovery layer here is interest. They've heard about you and they decided, oh, that's curious. The middle is consideration. Should I try this? Bottom of funnel is action. You know what? I think I will try this. That's your 3 actions you want to have people put through as they go through your funnel. So if we think of interest, right, the very top layer here, we start with how do I attract somebody? And then what can I do to make them turn their brain on and actually be like, oh, I want to consider you. And then finally take the action to come and visit you. And each of these arrows, this is interest breaks up into 3. In between each of these arrows, there's a decision point, right? There's a decision point after attract, after engage, and even after click, although that feeds into the next arrow. If you think of marketing as a series of bets, what you're trying to do is start with say, hey, attract, can I get your attention for 2 seconds? Can you see my ad, see my link, see my brand name mentioned, see a headline with my name in it, whatever it is? Can I get you to actually go, oh, that's curious. What does this matter to me? Can I think a little more about it? And then after click, can they actually visit your site and start to engage with the content there? So if we're going to build this out, we can start with the first week of our discovery process. We want to find an audience, right? Bring people to us as we're building this out to grow and nurture our startup. Finding an audience, how do I attract you? Well, there's a number of ways to do this, and some ways are fast, and some ways are more efficient with time, maybe cost you money. One of the ways I really like to tackle solving who can I find in an audience is with performance ads, and particularly with display ads, because they're fairly cheap to set up, they're fairly fast to set up, and they're really easy to say, all right, I've got one set of ads. I'm going to target them to many different people who all fit a persona. I may have 4 different personas I'm testing for my business. Which one of these is going to respond best of all to the message that I want to tell about my brand? So if I go find my audience, it's because I've got a product that I know I wish to sell. I want to see who resonates to the message about my product. And then I could say, all right, after I have done this for a week or two, I've been running my ads, I found a winner, somebody who seemed to be engaged. I want to start to look and see what do my analytics look like. So here's a recent campaign I ran for somebody. And we segmented their ad test into 3 personas, right? We had students, young families, and people who moved. And you can immediately see, now I can't show you their creative, but their creative was basically identical, running to different audiences, and which one engaged. And we say, wow, wow, people who moved was almost 1.2% as opposed to just people who are attending a university somewhere. What's that? A third of that, right? So that difference begins to show you, oh, one audience is way more engaged than another. I want to continue to investigate and look at the audience more in depth because 1.2% isn't a terrible click-through rate necessarily. And many marketers will say don't measure your click-through rate as a big measure of success. But when you're using Facebook as a market research tool and not as a revenue creation tool, you want to measure this click. You want to see what people are doing on this unit of creative because that's basically like a giant survey, right? Are you interested in this? Can I get your attention? Can I get you to spend a second or two, look at what I have to say, and then maybe click on it? So once I've found an audience, I'm able to say, okay, you also may have seen back here, I'm running 3 different ads, right? So 3 different ads to 4 different audiences. I want to see which one really gets people's interest. This is a different ad set for a different client, but if I've got 3 different units, all with thousands of impressions, and one of which hits 1.5%, I can begin to say, okay, this is statistically relevant as the winning unit of creative to this winning audience. And now I begin to know what message and language resonates. When you get later in your funnel, when you built a more mature system here, you might see, like I have here, right, 5.7% click-through rate on a winning ad. And this is once you really understand your audience, once you really understand the message, you might be doing some retargeting. Like these numbers begin to matter. You look less for that 1.5% as a goal to show you're seeing interest. But in the beginning here, when we're still building the systems up, 1.5% interest in an early ad to get attention means you've shown enough engagement. Industry standard for click-through rate on ads is half of 1%. If you're doing 3 times that, you're 2 deviations beyond the mean. That means you've got something that's interesting enough. It's better than just the undifferentiated garbage of most display ads out there. Now, once you've got an audience that you're saying, all right, I know somebody I can find. I know somebody who I'm seeing interest in. How do I get them to pay a little more attention here? And then what you start to do is you say, hey, I've got this audience. I want to target many different ways to talk about my product too. These are a series of ads I made for my book, Validate First, which is all about building the system to validate your business. And we had a number of different ways we were showing the audience that I knew I wanted, which was startup founders, our story about why they might want to try out the book. And this particular set of ads if you think of maybe you see ads for people who write books or not on Facebook, I see them pretty often. They usually have the author's face and like a narrative about the actual book. We tried something different just to see if the winning ad creative was done that way because it was the best way you do it or because it was the way everybody else did it. So these did pretty poorly. When we ran this, we went, oh, we're seeing our best unit was 1.1%. That's not really good enough where I'd want to hang my hat on this to build my business. And indeed, I spent a couple $100 here. I had no book sales at all, right? Nobody who actually saw these ads and clicked on them cared. That means I may have been able to find my audience of startup founders. I couldn't engage them. If I couldn't engage them, the way I'm trying to approach this go to market isn't working. In order to understand these people, I must find my audience, which from my book I knew, and then find their problem and the right way to offer to fix it. I even had the problem right. I didn't have the offer right. If you don't have that offer right, the other two parts won't drive a successful engagement and event for you either. But once you've got those three put together, then you're driving people in and trying to get them to actually visit your website. Once they've visited your website, they're at that visit. How are they going to consider you, right? They're thinking about, I wonder, is this really a good fit for a problem I have? And if you go into that process and say, all right, now I've figured out if what you're showing me is relevant to my interest, then I might actually sign up. I'll give you an example. Here's a previous client of mine. They're called Pluck. They produce a garden box as a service startup only in Texas, only I think Houston. And this was their website. When they came to me and said, hey, we need help making our website actually perform and building a system to make money. So we make growing your own food easy. That makes sense, right? If you are a garden box as a service startup, that's a pretty obvious declaration. This is the classic mistake startups make. When I've come to your website because I have heard about you somewhere, what I don't really care about your product, which sounds confusing. Right? Why would you come to my website except you care about my product? I care about what your product can do for me. I care about the result after I've used your product for 90 days or so. So as I approach how do we reform, we make growing your own food easy into an actual proper consideration stage discussion here, we end up with veggie gardens for non DIY folks. 'Cause obviously, if you could build your own garden box and you wanted to, you just would. They're not that hard to build. You take some wood, you put some nails in it, away you go. That said, something like 50% of homeowners in Texas have tried to launch a garden and failed, not because building the box was hard, but because not having the plants die is hard. So to talk about that, to show the result of what you get out of having a veggie garden, right? Show the result here more than I'm showing a picture of a box. Here's the food you're eating. And then the very first thing you see after you see here's the actual product you get out of it is someone saying, look what I got out of being a customer of Pluck. That right there changes the whole user's journey from do I really want this garden box, enchanting, educational, easy, a garden you can rely on? Like, don't show me the features, right? Show me the benefits. Show me what I get out of having used your service, whether it's a garden box as a service or a CRM. Any of these things, this same problem and solution you're trying to build up is important here. And once I see immediately, hey, here's somebody like me, she had success with this product, I begin to think maybe I can have success with this product too. Now, the next thing you have to have them do after they've visited you and understood your offer and how it applies to them is to convert them. And now, you may have seen something on that previous page I just showed you, but let's go ahead and look at how does Pluck originally say sign up to actually try the service. Schedule a quick chat to get growing. That was their call to action. They had the button 4 or 5 times on the page. Okay. If I am ready right now to put a garden in my front yard, that might get me to take action. But it is asking me to put a lot of faith in these people I don't know that the information they're going to give me is valid and good and useful. And you're putting friction into my decision to try your product out. Why would you make it harder for me to decide if I want to talk to you? A way better way to go into this would be to say, how do I make an offer so good that when you see it, you go, yes, of course, I want to take advantage of this. So if I'm thinking, oh man, it'd be cool if I had a garden in my front yard again, what can I do to offer to bring you into this and get a free plant when you talk to us? No commitment required, right? Just schedule a call. We'll give you something you can eat. I think they were doing okra when we introduced this. That completely changes how hard it is for me to decide to talk to you, right? A free plant, a free anything? Heck yeah. Let's go. I'll take the free thing. Cool. That's your removing the barrier to actually get them to convert and try you out. That's really important. The easier you make that decision, the more people you'll have sign up and try you out. So once they've actually signed up, you're like, great, I've driven a sign up to my website. Job is done. Now the money's going to roll in, right? Once they actually connect into your app, you still have a long way to go because as we're working on iterating and improving this step, it's worth keeping in mind. A buddy of mine, Azar Shad, ran a study on Twitter, and the responses here are not huge, but they are indicative of what I've seen working with my clients too, which is for whatever you define as user activation for your startup, what percentage of like how many of your users who sign up actually finish user activation? And so 20% of people had 20% or fewer complete sign up. 20 more percent had about half. But then you go 10% had less than 15%, 10% had less than 30%, another 10% had less than 35%, and that another 10% had less than 6%. You total all this up, and this one too to here at 4.8%. 45% of all startups have fewer than 20% of the people who sign up actually complete the demo action. That means 80% of the people who signed up and went, yes, let me try your demo, or who signed up and said, yes, let me have a call with you, actually did any action to try out and evaluate how good or how bad your product is. 80% of the people who signed up are immediately lost. That's a problem. You can't make much money if 80% of every sign up that you bring into your business immediately nopes out into space and you never hear from them again. You have to get them to try your product. What can you do to improve the likelihood that they will actually try you out? So I was CMO of Unito here. They're in Montreal. Uh, and they're a very complex product. They basically help you connect different task management software like Trello and Asana together so different people can work in their preferred app and the information flows between the two. This is very like Zapier, but a specific tool just for task management, Zapier, and it's pretty hard to use. Over my time working with them, one of the things we realized is our activation rate was like 10% or even less because people couldn't figure out how to begin their journey and what to do as they started out. So as we worked with them, we ended up laying out a quick start walkthrough. When you sign up, you don't go into an empty state in the app. When you sign up, you don't go into a here's your dashboard, have fun. When you sign up, you go here. And the only time you see this screen is when you first signed up and you haven't yet completed all of these steps. And we don't just tell you what 5 steps you have to do to build an integration between two apps. We tell you how long it takes. So I can say 2 minutes to connect my tools, 1 minute to set a flow, 4 minutes to choose my task, 3 minutes, 1 minute. Awesome. I'm 11 minutes and I'm done. You have set expectations. You have told the user, now that you're an app, here is what's going to happen. Something like this literally quadrupled the activation rate we had for people when they started and signed up. This is not very hard to do, but you do have to have the intent on what is the happy path for my users and how do I steer them into that. And now they're actually using what you have built. You have to figure out how do I get all of those people who are using to maximize their interest and engagement with what I have built? How do I get the people who started to use and didn't finish it all the way through a demo or a sign up process or whatever it is to really evaluate what I can do for them? Here, a very common tactic, here's something I built in Intercom, is you build multi-stage nurture campaigns. And depending on various actions you may take, you end up bucketed into different areas of the campaign to really try and uh, increase how you drive activation to one action or another. And so, for example, for this particular client, there was a big decision point where users had to connect certain stuff into their app. And if they didn't do it, then they hadn't yet really fully onboarded. And so reminders were set to try and drive them into this. And what you want to see here is uh, building out a funnel that takes you from, instead of maybe 80% of people who are signing up, trying your product and don't fully activate, make that 60, make it 50. Except that still a whole lot of people who are trying out your app will never convert to fully activating in the demo. You just want to minimize how many people don't over time. It's worth noting, as you build this out, right, top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, this is going to be broken. What you're building won't work the first time. But if we set up some ideas for what success looks like, you can begin to measure against a goal and then figure out, am I being successful? So if we say top of funnel, interest to activation, right? People who see my message and click on it. 1.5% is the bottom level for successful for me. I like to see more like 2 or 2.5. If you're not hitting that, that's fine. Particularly in the beginning, you want to drive towards that. Middle of funnel, getting people to actually sign up. You want a landing page that converts at least 5%, and more like 10 would be better. And then once I sign up, I want to see the minimum is 20% of my signups activate. I'd like to see more like 40. And so as you're building this model out, right, are you hitting those numbers? Are you reaching that level of success? Probably not. What's the farthest off from the goal number? And tackle solving that one first. The key things you want to look at here, one is, of my audience, if I show them, if they learn about me, how many come visit me? Excuse me. What's my cost to acquire a customer, my CAC, versus my average revenue per user, ARPU? Are those two, usually you want the CAC to be less than a third of the lifetime value or average revenue of your user. And the third one here is, do I have enough data to say, as I'm running experiments, as I'm making changes, do I have weekly cohort information? Because you don't want to look and see, hey, I had 8 people buy today. Because if 8 people bought today, you don't know when they signed up originally. You don't know if actions you took a week or 2 weeks ago improved or worsened the sign up rate of people who are in trial, in demo, in their buyer journey with you. You have to have weekly cohort numbers and you have to have weekly churn numbers. The key tools to understand each of these stages. The first one is an analytics tool like Google Analytics or Mixpanel or Matomo, some way to see what's happening as you're engaging people. Middle of the funnel, once you're starting to get data from people, you want lead enrichment, you want data connectors to start piping data around into your CRM. And then bottom of the funnel, you want CRM and you want a revenue cohort analysis tool. CRM like HubSpot, Base, Pipedrive. Revenue cohort analysis like ProfitWell is a pretty good one. There are other ones out there as well. These tools will let you understand what's happening in a cohort on their conversion journey. These key tools are what help give you enough information and data to steer. There are a few things to keep in mind as we wrap up here. The first is, this is hard to do. Iterating your way into this success it requires a honesty, it requires a relentlessness, and it's easy to get discouraged. Particularly once you've finished your journey the first time and you see, wow, nothing's hitting anywhere near a goal number. It can be very easy to give up. If it were easy, anybody would do it. We choose to be in startups because we like what is hard. And failing is good. Because if you've tried something and you failed, you've at least learned and you can try again. The only thing you can't do is begin to lie to yourself or to other teammates. Because if we're a data-based marketing organization trying to build and grow and foster and make our marketing better, and we're not telling the truth about the data, we can't make the right next decision. Hopefully, this was helpful to you, understanding a tool to get you through building, growing, and scaling your revenue. It's worth noting this is 9 weeks, but this is not necessarily 9 consecutive weeks. You can go through these weeks over the course of 3 months, over the course of 12 months. Each week you have a goal, you know what you want to achieve, and then you go on to the next one. Hopefully you found this useful. If you have any questions, I'm going to hop into the questions feed, see if I can answer anything for you guys. Alrighty. I see from Hustam Ab. Let me scroll down here. These are the key growth actions. The flag. This is not a question. All right. Let me see from Abdel Salam.
Hey Trevor, thank you
Yes,
a
sir.
lot for your presentation.
All right.
You have all the question in the chat tab if you want.
Okay. How do I stop
It's
sharing?
a question about Abdel Salam.
Share. There we go. Disable screen share. All right. All right. So, what are the best practices to measure product adoption rate? So, I guess now I answered this. All right. So, when you are looking to measure adoption rate, there are a few different key indicators you will have in your product. One might be try my demo out, right? And then try my demo out should have an action that is the fastest, shortest path you have to astounding your user with your product. Ideally, 10 minutes or less, they will be able to see what you've done and understand it and go, wow, this was really cool. You want to set the expectation at the beginning of that demo process. And then, if you can, hold their hand and draw them through to what the successful event would be. A good example, Slack. They knew if you had 3 other coworkers, you would be very likely to stick around. So their big drive for their first year was getting anybody who signed up for a Slack demo to invite 2 other users. And the sooner you got that, the sooner you go, oh, this is better than email because I can just ping you and get a response in 60 seconds, not ping you and wait for a response in 5 hours. There's an example of a product adoption metric. Every product has to have their own. But what you want to look for is the users who are happiest with me. What do they do first? And how do I make sure all my users go do that? Sorry, that my internet at one point.
Sorry, I have a bad connection.
Yeah, it's unusual for me. Anyway, I hope I answered your question adequately, Abdel Salam. Let me see other question we have. That's also not a. Oh wait, there's an aha moment. How do we figure out? How do we figure out our aha moment? There are 2 ways to do it. One is quantitative. One is qualitative. The qualitative one is to say first implement NPS scoring for people during their trial. The ones who are happiest, talk to them. Right? What made you go, wow, this is a phenomenal product? Talk to 10 or 15 people, you'll begin to get an idea what they have consistently found works. The other way is if you have very good event reporting in your analytics, you can just look and see what event, when it triggers, is most strongly correlated with purchase options by this cohort. And if you do that and you're getting hundreds or thousands of trials a month, you can have very high quality data to see this is the action that when people do it, they are most likely to buy. So a combination of both of those is the usual way I would recommend do it. Get big data to analyze, but also talk to your users because they'll give you the language that sells them. And when your users tell you how to sell them, that should be your copy. That should be your in your user journey to tell other users this is what you were looking for and we provided. Hope that answers your question to some. Anything?
Okay, cool. Very. Maybe do you want to add something, Trevor, about your presentation? If you want to add, as you want. Maybe a few words to conclude. To
Sure. So building and growing your startup requires a combination of the analytical mind and the artist's eye. You have to have some of your own input as a marketer or as a founder into this. This framework that I provided is not the only way to do it. There are tons of other books about this besides the one that I have written. But this is a dependable, repeatable system. And if right now you're looking at how do I grow from where I am to double or triple that, and I don't have all of these hooks in place in my product right now, this, if you follow these steps, you will grow. It may not be the easiest or the fastest way for you, depending on your product and your mind, whatever. But if you're able to check this out, I mean, go read more about it on my blog if you want. Go read more about it in my book if you want, whatever. This will help you understand the tools you need to grow and make your business more successful. And I've seen it happen. I mean, my goal is to help 1,000 founders reach more than $1 million a year in revenue. Uh, I've seen this work for more than a dozen already. I know it
yeah.
can work for you too. If you have any questions, go visit crowdtamers.com. Let me know if you have any problem with your business. Happy to have a chat with you. While my business does do this for like a living, I also talk to probably 10 or 15 founders a week just to see what are you struggling with right now? What do you need to do to help? Have a 20-minute talk and say, cool,
Okay.
hope that was useful, and then part ways.
Okay, very cool. Thank you so much. Just last thing, can I share your contact, your email on the chat? If someone, if
Uh,
startups
sure.
want to
Yeah,
speak
go
with
ahead.
you,
Drop my email in the chat. If they have any questions, they can hit me up.
up, it's done. So Trevor, thanks a lot for this
Thank you.
masterclass. It was very interesting. I'm sure a lot of startups have some question to ask in your email. Maybe we'll have a meeting later. For all the startups, thank you very much. It was the last masterclass of the year. So have a very great day. See you next year for the next masterclass with a very good topic. Again, will be very interesting. Thank you so much. And Trevor, take care and see you soon.
Yes, thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.